Small things started to happen. Mindset started to change, and we started talking about it more in the office. And now we've got a bottom line expectation, but here's what we want. When I reset the thermostat, it allowed me to see things that were in front of me the entire time.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Contractor podcast. This is Brian Kaskavalcian, and with me today is Donald Robbins, a member of our Success Society. Hey, Donald.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you. So, let's start off with your backstory. You have a very successful kitchen and bath remodeling business out there in Tennessee, but give us your little bit of your backstory. Give us like the 2-minute version.
Yeah, I own a full service remodel company in Germantown, Tennessee. It's a suburb of Memphis, and we've been doing this for 21 years now. Started off as a home builder and got crushed in the recession, and found a new way to do business as a remodeler. And so we do primarily kitchens and bathrooms, and we'll do some back porches, outdoor living spaces as well. And I really enjoy what we do. We've got a great team that I work with, and happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool. So you and I met at an Accelerate event. I believe you came to Accelerate. Was that your first entry into the Wealthy Contractor community?
Yes. Yeah. I had been listening to your podcast, I don't know, for a year or so. I can tell you the first time that I heard one of your podcasts, I was actually bagging leaves in my front yard, and could not believe there was somebody that was actually talking about profit and how to make money instead of the revenue. Everybody seems to talk about, hey, we do this much in sales, but you were talking about how much you actually keep, and resonated with me, made a huge impact. So I'd met you in Accelerate, and was glad I did.
Yeah. So you and I have had quite a few conversations over the years about mindset, about financial set points, about increasing income. So let's talk about that, because you went on the journey and you did the work, and it paid off for you. And our last intensive in March, you did an incredible presentation. Like, I was blown away by your presentation of, people think that, oh, okay, so Brian says, do this exercise, come up with a number, and then somehow magically it's just going to happen. And that's not at all how it works, as you can attest to. So let's talk about that journey, because watching it from my side, it's very obvious the people that are going to make it and the people that aren't going to make it. And it's not meant to be a dig on anybody. It's just, you could just see it when you start to talk to people about it, and about the strategies and about the things that have to be done in order to really increase your income. And I'm not talking about the business stuff. I'm not talking about raising prices, understanding your P&L, selling better, being more efficient. I'm not talking about any of that. That's all the practical, strategic stuff you have to do in the business. I'm talking about the work we have to do in our heads to convince ourselves that we deserve it, that we're worthy, that this is something that is possible for me. To me, that's like the real work, and you did the work. So let's talk about, if you don't mind, I want to talk about that journey, because I want to help other people unlock this inside of them. And I think you'll be a good teacher for that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm happy to. And first and foremost, I don't have all my crap together these days. So I don't want anybody to misunderstand that. So, and it's been
neither do I.
Okay. Yeah, let me be clear about that. But
well, and Donald, don't you think that the day that we do is kind of a sad day? It's like you wake up and say, "Oh yeah, my shit don't stink anymore. Look at me, I'm great."
Yeah.
I'd rather be growing every day.
Well, yeah, through my journey, I have realized that one of my purposes here on this planet is to grow. It's just to grow, like a tree. That's what a tree is supposed to. So we're all sent here just to grow and experience, and to help others grow and experience the fullness of life. But anyway, so the journey was not easy, and you gave me some tough love a couple of times that I did not appreciate at the moment, but I needed it. And so anyway, I have always felt stuck. I've always felt a conflict when it comes to money. I grew up in a conservative Christian home, which was a great place for me. I don't regret that or dismiss that at all. But I'm not saying this is what they taught, but I heard a lot of money is the root of all evil. It's actually the love of money is the root of all evil. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And that's what Jesus said. And I still can't figure that one out. So there's a lot of things that I heard as a young person that I don't know, it kept me stuck. So as I went from my 20s to 30s to 40s, I felt like I was sabotaging myself, and I didn't even know what self-sabotage really was until I recognized it later. Anyway, it really changed when you were talking to a lady, Sydney Barrows, and I was listening to a podcast. That was your podcast with her back in 2021, and I thought, you know what? I think I don't know what else I'm going to do. I really was at almost a wit's end at the time, and I'll give this a try. I probably don't have the money to do it.
Well, let's be clear. You were at your wit's end about what?
Oh, about I didn't have any money. I was working. One of the things that at my home, I would come home and I'd tell my wife, "Golly, I'm so busy. I'm very busy. We got all this business." And she would say, she's the smarter of the duo here. So she would say, "Oh, where's all the money?" I'm like, "It's coming. It's coming." I just, but it wasn't because my margins and all this other stuff that I got much better at later on. And again, I don't have it all together. There's plenty of room to grow, but I was blocked. And I do remember I'll try not to ramble much, but I've got a lot of successful friends, financially successful and successful across the board. And one of them is the COO of a large corporation, lives in Nashville and offices in New York. And I called him one day and I said, "Man, what is wrong with me?" This was back in 2014. He said, "Nothing." He said, "You're just like the rest of us." He said, "You'll figure it out one day." I'm like, "Geez, that wasn't much help, Greg, but okay." But I had this feeling. So fast forward to, I guess, 22, end of 21, 22. He'd had this podcast with Sydney Barrows, and I finally called her and learned that I could afford her. She's a healer or therapist. She talks to your subconscious, and it's really woo-woo, man.
Energy. She does energy work. Yeah. So I just talked to her yesterday, by the way.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to do a session with her next week.
Mine is tomorrow. That's when my subconscious told her that it was time to speak again. But that was so.
We just lost half the audience.
Yeah, I know. They're like, "Man, this is too much for me."
But hold on, audience. It works. Hold on.
Yeah, it was keep going here. It was so uncomfortable.
Hear the rest of the story. Yeah.
It truly was so uncomfortable for me that I did not tell my wife that I was doing this for at least 6 to 8 months after I'd done it, because it's so hard to explain. Anyway, so I spoke to Sydney, and Sydney's what Sydney's healing is about is she wants to talk to your subconscious mind and try to unblock some of the things that are blocking you. And I told her, the first session, she says, give me a few things that you want to work on. I think it's 3 or 5. And my first one was my money blocks, my money mindset. I've got to get that right. And also, I have a feeling of hopelessness, and I have a feeling of this and that. And I'd be friggin', my stupid subconscious wanted to talk about the feeling of hopelessness first. I'm like, well, that's just a ploy to get some more money out of me. Anyway, fast forward today, and I don't know when her healing is so gradual. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because I do think we'll lose a lot of the listeners. But it's so subtle. It's not a silver bullet. It's one morning you don't wake up and you say, "Hey, I don't feel hopeless anymore."
Right.
It's not not like that. But gradually, it went away. So I was working with her probably 8 or 9 months, and I saw you at the Fort Myers Accelerate.
Okay, before we go to that, before we go to Fort Myers, I just want to be clear about something with the audience. So there's the conscious mind and there's the subconscious mind. Most everything that we do, most everything we think and believe is rooted in the subconscious mind. A lot of that stuff, we don't always know what's going on in there. And our conscious mind could say something like, well, I want to make more money. And then what happens is, and I'm just trying to do just a little overview, I guess, of how this all works. I've done much, much more expanded stuff on this. And if anybody's interested, send me messages and we can do more of this stuff and go deeper on it. But essentially, the conscious mind this is where a new idea will originate, a new thought will originate. And then what happens is it doesn't stop there. Then it goes to the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is either going to accept it or it's going to reject it. And when it rejects it, it comes in the form of like resistance. It's going to tell you all of the reasons your subconscious, and you won't even know this is happening. Because the subconscious mind is working behind the scenes. It's the computer program that's, the conscious mind, think of it as the computer screen. What you see on the screen, the subconscious is all of the stuff that's happening in the background to make the screen happen. And so if you plant in there, hey, I want to make more money, that thought is then going to go into the subconscious mind. And then the subconscious mind is either going to say, oh yeah, let's go. We can do this. You're worth it. You deserve it. Or more than likely what it's going to do is it's going to come up with all of the reasons why that's not a good idea. That's not going to be safe for you. That's going to take you out of your comfort zone, and it's going to block you. And then you'll wake up a year later and wonder, wait a minute. Why am I not making more money? I wanted to make more money. I'm doing all the things in my business I need to do, but why am I not making more money? Okay. So that's kind of the conscious subconscious mind thing. Now let's go to, we're in Fort Myers at Accelerate Live. And
hey, let me go back. That last 1 minute that you just said, that's truth. It is truth. It is. And so if you guys want to go back and listen to that again, I used to not believe that, but it is. And I made a comment. I've thought about it many times. I don't know how an airplane works. My youngest brother is a retired Air Force pilot. I don't need to know how they work, but I can use them. And I know that they do work, and I don't have to understand it. So all of that. So back to Fort Myers, I came up to you and I was super excited. I was going to tell you, hey, I've been working with Sydney and I caught you in a hall and I didn't know you at all. And I said, hey, I've been working with Sydney Barrows. And you said, how's it going? I said, it's going okay. And you said, are you doing the exercises? And I'm like, the hell is he talking about? What exercises?
Daily work.
The daily work. And you were kind enough. I reached out to you after that and you told me what the daily work was, because at that point I had just been talking to Sydney and Sydney would have a 2-hour, therapy session, I call them, but I did nothing else other than that. So after you told me about the daily work, I started doing that. And again, there's I'm 56 years old. There are no one thing, silver bullet, magic formula. There's nothing. Everything is done in conjunction with something that you have heard prior to, and you build upon it, and life is a beautiful composition, I guess. So it's just amalgamation of all these things that you've learned. So, and the exercises for me, and these are just what worked for me, and you can do something similar, is Brian, in your Accelerates, you talk about these, the four numbers, and you talk to all of us and you say, look, to get, I call it my best life worksheet. So what does your best life look like? And you break it out into four numbers, and those numbers are savings and giving. And then, what do you want to do with lifestyle? And then, taxes. So those are your four numbers. And so what would it take to live your best life? And I struggled with, that's a very basic question that all of us truly should have a ready answer for. And I didn't have it. And I struggled with that for 8 or 9 months. And I got my number. I got my number for 24. And I've got a number for 25. And I've got a number for 26. And I was talking to my son about this yesterday. I'm trying to teach him some of this stuff. But so I guess this was late 23 into 24, I came up with some exercises, and I will share the number for 24. So one of Brian's exercises he told me about was a happy and grateful exercise. So you've got to handwrite it. And again, it's so private. I can't believe I'm sharing this, because it was so private for me. I didn't want my family members to see my notebooks because I thought they would think I was a little nutty.
Well, because it's crazy. It legit looks, from the outside, it legit looks crazy.
It does.
By the way, with Sydney, you know what sold me? So her and I were trying to remember the name of this guy, and I'm going to figure it out. But the guy, I'm talking to a guy in a hallway, and I had, I forgot what year it was, but I had gone through the bankruptcy, had lost everything. And this guy was one of the guys in the Dan Kennedy world that had it all figured out, quote unquote, had it all figured out. And I see the guy, and we're chatting, and it turns out he went bankrupt at the same time I did. Now, his bankruptcy was much bigger than mine. But we had both talked about how, man, finally now we can talk about it. It was so hard when we were going through it. We were so ashamed and blah, blah. And he points over at Sydney and he goes, oh, Sydney helped me get through it. You got to go work with Sydney. So I knew Sydney from before. I didn't know she was doing this work. So I go over to her and I said, hey, he said that we should work together because I got this and that going on. And I said, so what is it? And she starts to tell me what it is. And she goes, Brian, it sounds crazy, but it works. And when she said, Brian, it sounds crazy, because she's not one of those healer people that's like woo-woo-y and blah, blah, blah. Sydney Barrows is she's a New Yorker.
Yeah, right.
She's
right.
like, she does not mess around, and she tells it like it is. And it's not like one of those new age weirdo hippie people at all. This is a sophisticated New York City woman. And so we started to work together. And so that is crazy. But then all the other stuff you have to do, like the happy and grateful exercise, is, if somebody else saw it, they'd be kind of nuts. They would think that we were nuts. Okay, so you start doing the work, because what happened was I remember that Fort Myers conversation like it was yesterday, because you're telling me I want to make more money. That's what I hired Sydney for, blah, blah, blah. And you said, yeah, I hired her, and how's it going? And well, it's not really working. And then I asked you, you said, are you doing the daily work? Because this happens with a lot of people. It's like, okay, I read this book, and now all of a sudden, magically, my life is going to change. Or I read Traction. Let's just say this is a good business example. I read the book Traction, And I know about EOS now. I haven't implemented it, but I read the book. I used to call it the illusion of accomplishment. I think now I'm going to start calling it the delusion of accomplishment, because you think that you accomplished something when really, yes, but that was just one step in the process. You can read the book, but now you got to go implement what it says to do in the book. And this wealth attraction, this raising your financial set point, requires the same thing. You can't just go to a seminar. You can't just hire Sydney and think magically all of a sudden the magic fairy dust is going to come all over you, and you're somehow magically going to double, triple, quadruple your income. No, there's a lot of work that you have to do outside of that to convince yourself I can make more money. So, okay. So with that, now keep going with your story. Sorry, I keep jumping in there, but I want to do explanations, because the next part is actually the key part here of your story.
Yeah, I want to say something though too. A lot of times I listen to the guys that come on your show, and I used to. I don't think it as much now, but I used to. Man, I could never do that. What's wrong with me? Why can't I be like that? And so, just to give everybody full disclosure, after that Fort Myers conversation, in the back of my head, I'd be like, what's he talking about? Daily work? Why?
Yeah.
Why the hell didn't I know this 8 or 9 months ago?
Right.
Why didn't I ask that? And so there's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-questioning, a lot of maybe this isn't going to work for me. And I don't know if that's normal, but that's what happened to me.
It's totally normal.
Okay.
Why do you think so few people break through?
Because it's hard.
So few people? Exactly. It's like anything else.
There's a voice. I used to think it was just me that had this voice in my head, but there's a voice in one's head that wants to keep you safe and comfortable. And hey, if you do make all this money, it's going to turn you into a different person. And when you become that different person, you're going to be what? But you're not going to be yourself. And so you're going to change. And
by the way, that little voice inside is not the divine voice. That is not the voice of God, because that voice is the subconscious keeping you safe.
Yeah, that's right.
And look, you could be driving a broken down hoopty car, live in a crappy apartment, work your ass off in your business, and your subconscious mind will say, we're good here. We're safe. We know how to navigate this. We're okay. We're comfortable here. And it sounds crazy, but that's what its job is to keep you in the quote unquote comfort zone, because you know how to navigate that. It could be horrible, but you know how to navigate it. You don't know how to navigate, well, I just doubled my income. That's new. That's not who you were yesterday. And so this is what makes this so hard to do, is because now you got to battle that little voice, which is the voice of your parents, is the voice of all of the crap you've heard about you over the years. It is not the voice of God, or whatever you want to call it. It is not divine, because that voice, the only way to get to that voice is to go quiet and to go deep inside and go beyond the subconscious mind. That's where you find that voice. So anyway, I just wanted to be clear on that, because a lot of people will have this thing where, like, that's God's voice talking to me. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's not God's voice talking to you.
Yeah, that's the critic. That's the
critic. That's you. That's the inner critic that is talking crap to you about you. That's not how God thinks of us. Anyway, I didn't want to go too much into God, and you could use whatever term you want there. But okay, so now the daily work. Let's go there.
Yeah. So the daily work is an exercise. that, and I call them exercises because,
They
nobody
are.
can do your push-ups. You got to do your own push-ups.
That's
And
right.
this is the same thing. So you get that number that is your best life number. And you say, I am so happy and grateful now that I'm earning X dollars this year. I'm so happy and grateful that I'm earning $800,000 this year. I'm so happy. Oh, I'm so happy. And so you put emotion in it. And I know it sounds weird. And I also realize that this struggle of mine is not everybody's struggle. Some people don't have the thermostat for their earnings potential set low. So, and some people don't have money hangups. So
Right.
if you
But
don't
they're
have
very
those,
few and far between.
yeah. And if
Very
you don't have
few
those,
and far between.
so you have that number and you do your happy and grateful exercises. I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning this much money this year. And you write it. I forget how long I wrote it. I got to the point where I was writing it about 3 pages worth. And that was, I think it's 10 or 15 minutes. So, and then I was at a Success Society. I joined Success Society, in Fort Myers. I wanted to join it earlier, but I didn't think I had the money and I didn't think I was on the same level as the guys. So I put it off a year or two, and I'm so glad. I'm so very glad that I did. So, cause it paid for itself the first year and it's already paid for itself this year too. So I was at one of those and somebody was up there talking. I was like, why did I choose that number? What do I have against being super wealthy? And so, so anyway, those kind of things. And then I got to thinking, I'm going to increase my number for 25. And I talked to Sydney about it. And one phrase that I've, done at this point is, so I get a new number and I say, I know it is possible for me to make X dollars next year. And now I interchange them all, but these are the 3 things that I've said to myself. So I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning X dollars per year. I know it is possible for me to earn X dollars this year or next year. And then I justify that possibility because, well, I know he's doing it. I know they're doing it. I know somebody else is making that money. So I cannot prove that it's impossible for me to make that amount. So it must be possible because I can't disprove it. Then the third exercise is, and this is just for me, I give myself permission to fill in the blank. I do this on a lot of personal, non-monetary things, but I give myself permission to be great at this, or I give myself permission to make X dollars next year. I give myself permission to be worth X dollars by the time I'm 62. That's one of my mantras too. And I've got a number in my head. And now I'm wondering, because I want to grow. I'm looking at a magnolia tree outside my window, and his purpose is to grow. And so maybe if I hit that number by 62, maybe, what's the number by 65? And it's really not, it's not about the money. It's not about the number. And you always say this, it's not about the numbers. I had to hang up too that I don't really need that much money. And I've told you this how many times. Yeah. I've got a great lifestyle. I drive a nice truck, but I drive a 2019 F-150. It's nice, but I could go buy a $150,000 truck. I don't want it, but I think I'd like to grow, to see how much I can do. I do want to give a good amount of money. One of my list of things to do is, plan out my giving for this year. And you and I've talked about that too.
You want to talk about you should mention the check at some point, but Donald and I have had, I love working with people like Donald because they go and they do it. They do it kicking and screaming, but they actually go and do the work. And I want to mention something here that's critically important because we didn't talk about what happened from that conversation at Fort Myers where you joined Success Society, but that wasn't the thing. You joined Success Society, but between there and the next few months, you and I had a few conversations but something critically important happened, and you would not have gone on the trajectory that you did had this not happened. And it was that you made a decision. You made a decision, because it all starts with that. You made a decision that I am done making this amount of money. Now I'm going to make, which is the number, your first number was 3 times your current income. Is that right?
2.5 something. It was
2.5 times.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you had never made anywhere near that kind of money before, but that was the most important decision you had to make was, I'm done with that. This is me now. You didn't know how it was going to happen, and it's not your job to know how it's going to happen, but you made a decision. Once you make the decision, now you're willing to do the work. You're willing to do the things that it's going to take to convince yourself that that is your number. And once you convince yourself, it happens so quick. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. What just happened here? And so that's a critical piece of this, is the decision. One other thing I'm going to say here for everybody, and this is also this concept, my teacher, my now coach, David Nagel, taught me this 20 years ago, and I did not understand it. I didn't get it. I get it. When you come up, and this is the beauty of the 4 numbers exercise, that you will not come up with a number that you cannot reach. No matter what number you put on that exercise for lifestyle, for future wealth, for giving, for taxes, whatever those 4 numbers add up to, the law of polarity says, this is a universal law. The law of polarity says, if there's a left, there's a right. If there's an up, there's a down. If there's dark, there's light. If you come up with a number, that's it. That number, your ability to achieve that number must exist. It must exist. Otherwise, you would not have been able to come up with it. Now, you'll like this. I heard this recently. Somebody said, if you believe, and I'm paraphrasing this, and I'm going to try and say it in a way that makes sense. They said it better than I did, but it really stuck with me. How messed up would God have to be? Or was this you that said it?
Yeah, it was
How
me.
messed up? You were the one that said it. Okay.
Yeah.
You said it in your presentation at your 10-minute breakthrough at Success Society.
Yeah.
How messed up would God have to be to put a desire in your heart, in your mind, and not have a pathway for you to get there? And we know that's not, at least that's not our God. That might be, somebody else's God, but that's not the one you and I believe in. And so anyway, to the listener, if you have this desire, if you have this dream to live a certain lifestyle, to have a boat, to have a fancy car, not even a fancy car, maybe just a fancy truck, whatever it is, the desire cannot be there if the means for you to acquire it doesn't exist at the same time. It's just not possible. It's not how the laws work. All right. So let's go back now. We're at, where are we now? You were starting to do the daily work.
Yeah.
And then
so
what starts happening? So you're doing the happy and grateful exercise, which I'll break down, but I want to let you talk. I'm talking a lot, but I want to break down why that exercise works. But you did the daily work, and then what starts happening?
I'd love to say that, just one day I ran into a lot of money, but that's not how it happens. I don't think for anybody, or at least for me, but I did those exercises, and time went by, and I started to feel differently. I started to feel more optimistic, more hopeful. Started to feel that I know most of the guys on this, listen to this, probably may or may not have this issue, but for me, I always thought, how can I be super happy with a high gross margin or net profit, either one. How can I be happy making money from the customer, and then the customer is happy by paying a higher price? But in reality, I've seen it over and over and over again over the last year and a half, is that everybody can be happy because
it's a win-win.
Yeah, the client is paying a premium price, but they're receiving a premium product. And then the guys that I work with now, they're making great money. One of our goals this year, and it was the same last year too, is this year, everybody working here is going to make more money than we did last year. How do we do that? Well, we could do, and there's not one thing. I really wish I could say, if we just did this one thing, we could increase net profit by, 5 percentage points. It's not like that. But what we've done is that we have increased gross and net by several percentage points by doing certain things. We raised our prices, and we are unapologetically, some of the higher priced providers in our
as you
market.
Should be.
Yeah, because we provide a great product, and I feel as if we're like the Lexus of the home remodeling. We're not the fanciest of the fancy, but we are a luxury product that's very practical, and we warranty everything for anyway. So small things started to happen. Mindset started to change, and we started talking about it more in the office. And now everybody, we've got a bottom line expectation, but we've got, here's what we want. And then I don't know, Brian, how to say it. Just when I reset the thermostat, it allowed me to see things that were in front of me the entire time. And then you said something on one of these, I don't know, monthly things that you get on, or maybe it's a podcast or whatever. And I wrote it down, and I got it on my desk. Don't be a lazy contractor. That was what I heard. That may not have been exactly what you said. I'm like, dang, I've been lazy for all these years. But then I'm at the point, it does me no good to beat myself up. What's past is past. So, what can I do today, and how can I make things better today? And so anyway, financially, things have gotten better. My work environment and I owe a lot of things. I give a shout out to John Lang of Lang's Remodeling of Bucks County, Pennsylvania. He's been a coach of mine, and I'm in another peer group with some kitchen and bath guys, but he's a wonderful guy. But through the last couple of years, I think I've got 2 people that work in my office that were working in my office 3 years ago. And it has been hard. Oh God, it's been so freaking hard. But I've got a great crew right now. And, what I have noticed is, as I have grown, the people around me didn't grow. Mm-hmm. And having said that, I recognized, 7 or 8 months ago, I'm like, this is going to be a problem, because I'm going to continue to grow. But if I don't let them grow, and I know Brian Gottlieb and several others have said you become from a sales to a training organization. So I've got 2 individuals up at the tech conference in Baltimore right now, as we speak. So I owe it to my office to keep growing, and we're all going to grow together and hopefully ride off into the sunset together. But so those are the things that you start noticing, and then your best life scenario, you say, you know what if I could give more money to this place and give more money to that place? Well, I need to make more money. And so if I could make some more money, so then how do I make more money? And not all my money comes from my business. I should also say that too. So, because as you open, you're like, well, that might be a good opportunity as well. And I've got my office crew running things that, many times I go in the office and I'm like, what do I do today? I mean, it really, and you've talked about this many times, you get in there and you say, well, what I've been doing, everybody else is doing right now. So gosh, this is uncomfortable. What am I going to do? Well, I need to stretch a little bit more. I got to continue to grow. So it really is just a continuum of growth. I think I'm rambling. I'm going to shut up.
Well, no, what's interesting, no. This has been great, because See, what a lot of us do, and I'm guilty of this too, is we set this intention, we have this desire to make more money. And we then say, okay, well, the key to this, we try and figure out how to do it. And the logical way to do it is, well, we just need to go sell more. And so people pour money into marketing. They'll bring on more salespeople. They'll be tightening up their sales system. They'll get an AI thing that listens to all of the recording. All of that then leads to, okay, we start selling more. But the thing is that, are you making more money? Because the whole goal here was to make more money. And the focus is on revenue. It's not on profit. And not only is it not on profit, but why that profit number? That's why the 4 numbers are so important. You know, how do we want to live? What do we want to put away for our future so we don't have to always be working? What do we want to do to give, to share our good fortune with the world? And so people work on what they think are the right things, but they're not. The right things are to work on myself, because when I work on myself, when I level up, things around me start to change. And all of this sounds crazy, but I have been given, and I've said this over and over for the last 2 years, in my 50 some years of life, I have never, ever once seen any evidence to the contrary. Never. This is how it works. And it doesn't, for us right now, consciously, if you don't understand it, it doesn't make sense. It's like, but wait a minute, Brian, in order for me to grow my business, I have to increase sales. Yes, you do. But if you really want to build a great organization, if you really want a great business, and you really want a great bottom line, build yourself first. Grow yourself. Because what's going to happen is, as you grow, so you said something really interesting. The people in your office are not the same people that were there 3 years ago. What happened? Well, 3 years ago, you were a different person. You saw the business and you saw yourself in a different way. As you grew, you realized, wait a minute, the people around me need to grow as well. I need a different set of people around me. And look, nothing against those people. But what got you here is usually not what's going to get you there. And you are not doing them any favors by keeping them around when they are obviously falling behind. So bless them, thank them, but let them go somewhere where they can shine, because they aren't going to be able to shine in your organization. And so things like this come up and things like this happen, but you're okay with it because you were doing the work. You were working on the happy and grateful. Yes, I want a 7-figure income, which you're going to hit this year, right? That's your new number, 7 figures. Okay. Like 1%. I just read an article yesterday, and I can't remember the number, but the number of people that make 7 figures a year is a very small number. It's 1%, I think. Tiny number. And in order for you to get there, you can't keep doing the same stuff that you were doing before, expecting a different result. And so that's why all of this stuff, when I share in our wealth attraction workshops, I share that I did 14 things that I identified. I sat down one day and I thought, what were all of the things that I had to do? Now, I'm a slow learner, and you only did 2 or 3, and boom, look, you 2.5 times, 3 times your income.
No, I'm slow, man. I am a slow learner. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, me too. If I can do it, crap, anybody can do it, Let's talk about, let's talk about some of the resistance that you had to battle with. Because immediately when you set a new intention, immediately what's going to happen is resistance. And so how did you overcome that resistance?
I don't know. I don't know if I can define that, really. I'll tell you a couple of things that I do. So nowadays, I was in a funk for so long because I was so frustrated. I was just so frustrated. And you're right. We have not focused on marketing for the last year and a half or two. We're really focused on efficiencies, getting that net profit number up, that percentage up, getting the gross margin number up, and really providing we call it a world class service. I got that from Charlie Gindell, and so. And now we want to roll it out and grow. But, so that was one thing that we did. Another, thing that I do. Yeah. I don't know how to combat the resistance because it
Well,
is
I do.
there.
I do. And I know
How?
what you did.
What?
You kept doing the exercise every day.
Well, yeah,
That's why
yeah,
the daily work is so important, is because every day you have got to do the work. It's like it's like I want beautiful biceps. Okay? I want strong, beautiful biceps. Do I go to the gym and just do one set of curls and then that's it? I'm done. I got beautiful biceps.
that's a great
I mean,
point.
that's the
Yeah.
same thing as saying, well, I want to make $1 million a year. And okay, I'm going to go buy this book. And now all of a sudden I'm going to make $1 million a year.
But the truth for me is I didn't do it every day. There would be some days that I missed, but I did it more days than I didn't. And
Yeah.
I would date it and then I'd go
Yeah.
back and look at it. And then I also, read, and I read that book this morning too, The Millions Within, by David Nagel. And, it's a great book. One of the things that I do now, is I go through my list of grateful things that I'm grateful for. And then I've expounded upon it, people that I'm grateful for. And then the people, I wrote 72 people on a piece of paper a few weeks ago that have been influential in my life
Oh,
and
that's
people that I'm
beautiful.
grateful for. And so I come up with things that to be thankful for. And I'm finding that I'm not, I still get down. I mean, I'm not, I'm not always up. And I'm probably quiet and introverted more than anything, but, these grateful, little things that I do every day these days, it's hard to not feel wealthy or
Right.
blessed when you can count off 20 things that you're grateful and thankful for.
Great. Gratitude is powerful.
It is, and I heard that for a long time, and I wish I was a quicker study. But those things helped combat the resistance because in my mind, there's I have this imposter syndrome that people have talked about forever, and I feel like if anybody really knew half the stuff that didn't make it to the light of day, they'd be like, no, you. So
I still battle with imposter syndrome.
you do. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever admitted it, but it's not what it was 10 years ago, not even close to what it was 10 years ago. But I still battle with it a little bit too. That would be an interesting podcast episode, for everybody listening. And we got to wrap this up. This has been fantastic, Donald. I mean, there's been so much good stuff here. And I think, I think we could probably even do another episode just on this if the listener wants it. You let us know if you want to hear more of this stuff, because I got a ton of it. We share a lot of this in Success Society. I've shared some of it here, but kind of slowly in drips. But I think maybe I need to spend a little bit more time on this topic, because it really is the what makes the most difference. Is working on ourselves really makes the most difference in business. As we wrap up here, what would you say to people that might be thinking about Success Society? I told you we're opening it up. We're going to do a discovery day at our next intensive. What would you say about Success Society?
I would highly recommend it. We haven't rehearse this or anything, and I'm not trying to give you a total commercial here, but
no, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's like you as a
yeah,
member.
you're right. You're right.
Group.
As a member, I would say that it's expensive until it's expensive when you think of joining, but the value that you receive, it's not, it pays for itself more so. I had a handyman division and I went to,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think it was the first intensive, and in the round table, I'm telling everybody something, and we no longer have a handyman division. And man, things in my office are so much smoother and nicer. Oh, and more profitable. And so, the cost, was paid for, with that, alone. And then I've reaped even more, savings since then. There was another one at another round table that Mark Curry said something to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
that was a game changer, right?
That's so elementary. I remember that. It's an alignment meeting. Why didn't I think of that? And so I've had a lot of those, thoughts that why didn't I think of that? And nowadays I don't beat myself up over it. So I'm just thankful that, I've had the opportunity to be in the Success Society. The people in there that I thought were unapproachable, turned out to be very approachable. They're all very nice. They're all willing to share. There's no competition. And I pick up stuff at dinners. I pick up stuff. Last time I was down there, I was eating dinner with some friends, and the night before anything started, I said, I got my money's worth right here, boys. So I would highly recommend it. I don't know if that's enough. And I'll say this before we end, Brian. I am so grateful for what you do on the podcast. I've listened to your podcast for years, and you have changed my life. You truly, the work that you do has changed my life, and I'm very thankful to you. And I would ask that you please, convey that to Addie, because I know she's your partner on this. And, I'm so grateful, for the podcast and the words of wisdom that you've shared with all of us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. And thank you for being here. I think this was a really good episode. And all right, everybody. Well, hopefully you found value in this episode. If you did, by the way, I would really appreciate it if you would go to wherever you listen to podcasts, ideally at Apple, and leave a review. Let us know what you think, because I'm here and I'm recording with my guests, and we think we're giving you good stuff, but the only way we'll really know is if you go and leave us a review. And also it helps other people find the podcast as well. So I would appreciate it if y'all would go and do that. Donald, thank you again. Appreciate you. And I will see you very soon at our next intensive. And to everybody listening, until next time, this is Brian Kaskavalcian, and this is the Wealthy Contractor Podcast.